Welcome back to Market Insight. Now to the heart of the conversation, essentially. We're talking about the woes, economic woes, that is, of Nigerians. This is according to what the CBN has said recently vis-a-vis a survey carried out. So apparently more Nigerians are borrowing and could possibly borrow. I've got a question for you, very quick one, or well, a few questions actually. How have you fared in the past year, especially regarding cost of living? Are your savings still intact? Are they marginally depleted or totally exhausted? If it's the latter, have you had to borrow from those around you or take a loan from a financial institution, perhaps your bank or one of those, loan institutions around? Now, these are the questions that have informed some living choices for very many in recent times. While Nigerians are bracing up for tough months ahead, with many planning to rely on borrowing and even depleting their savings to manage their financial obligations amid challenging economic landscape. Now, this is according to the CBN's July 2024 Household Expectation Survey, which highlights growing consumer pessimism about the nation's economic trajectory. Now, the purpose of the survey was to gauge how businesses and households perceive current and future inflation trends, as well as the primary drivers of inflation. It took into account 1,665 households involving 1,600 businesses as well from across the country, revealing a stark decline in consumer confidence, with the overall confidence index for the next 3 months standing at a negative 9.1 points. Now, it also warned further that there will be a financial strain for Nigerians, and also noted that more Nigerians may rely on borrowing to cover increasing expenses over the next 6 months. Now, that's not all. It indicated that household expenditures will continue to rise through the remainder of this year, well into next year, starting January. Now, the question at this point for many is, how did we get here? Where are we headed? Is there hope at all for any reprieve? Is it guaranteed? And what do these indexes, these projections and extrapolations mean overall for Nigeria and Nigerians? Now, we discuss these and more with our guests this morning. Dr. Robert Ogbonna Ngwu. He is an economic, finance and management expert in the public and private sector. He's also the special advisor to the Honorable Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology. He joins us this morning. Good morning, Dr. Ngwu.
Thank you. Good morning.
And also joining us is Ms. Ingi Irmaga. She is a policy analyst. Good morning, Ms. Irmaga. Thank you for joining us. Can you hear me? Kindly unmute your device.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm sorry. Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Now, we're going to start with you, Dr. Ngwu. Fundamentally, we will start with, what is already known and, we progress. But before all of that, let's get a sense of the numbers and the indices and the indexes, as it were, because, it's a lot of, technical terms which most Nigerians may or may not understand. But that survey shows that 83.7% of respondents had an overall inflation perception index of negative 61.1 points. Now, further breakdown of that survey showed that businesses with an index of 58.7 points had a higher inflation perception index compared to households which have an index of negative 63.3 points. Now, all of this, with the overall consumer confidence index for the next 3 months stands at a negative of 9.1 points. So give us a sense, Dr. Ngwu, of what these figures mean for Nigerians. First of all, let's start from there.
Okay. Like you said, the recent data from the central bank revealed that concerning trend. Nigerians are planning to borrow more and save less over the next 3 months, reflecting growing anxiety about the country's economic outlook. Like you said, according to the CBN survey, this shift indicates a decline in consumer confidence and worsening economic situation for many Nigerians as they anticipate tougher financial conditions ahead. Now, you also have to remember that we're about to enter the Ember month, September, October, November, December, entering into the seasonal months. Nigerians, this is the time Nigerians spend a lot of money during this period. And the confidence is everything. Consumer confidence is everything. It's a confidence that will enable the consumer to borrow, knowing that they have the ability to pay back, which is kind of contradicts itself. But if you look at the recent GDP release, Nigerian GDP grew by 3.19% year on in second quarter of 2024, up from 2.98% in the previous quarter. This growth has not necessarily translated into improved living standards for the average Nigerians, since the accelerated growth was primarily driven by the oil sector, which expanded by about 10.15% in second quarter, a notable increase from 5.7% growth recorded in previous period. This growth is largely attributed to the increased oil output, a sector that still remains a critical component of Nigerian economy. Even at that, Nigerians still remain skeptic about the future, which is what is driving that borrowing trend. Now, many economists will argue that the increase in GDP does not reflect the realities on ground. But for you to really look deep into that, you have to look at what is really causing this trend. You're looking at inflation. You're looking at the foreign exchange, increase in the foreign exchange. You're looking at all those things. These are the things that are driving this. And the question is, what is the country doing about that in terms of the Nigerian government scrapped import duties on certain food items recently, and that was meant to curb this rising food inflation, which carries a significant economic and social implications given the context of Nigeria's current economic situation. Marked by this inflation, poverty, and structural challenges, this policy measure is expected to have both short-term benefits and long-term consequences. The short-term relief, which is already being felt in the market, which the report did not capture. For instance, right now, there's the price of some staple foods is coming down in terms of corn and some of the staple food we eat in Nigeria. The prices are crashing as we speak. So, which kind of met the primary objective of removing the import duties on food items. The price of food is coming down as we also entering into harvest period. But the implication is the effect on the farmers who went into increased production to benefit from the increase in the high price. However, the farmers are not the ones that are benefiting from this inflationary pressure on price of food. It's the middlemen. It's the middlemen that arbitrarily increase the price of goods and services. And so the question still remains in terms of the effect, the long-term effect on the farmers. Now, you're looking at the eliminating these duties on food imports will likely reduce government revenue. You have to look at that too, particularly in the context where Nigeria is already grappling with fiscal constraints. This reduction in revenue might limit government's ability to invest in critical infrastructure, in social services, or support programs for local farmers. The increase in food imports will exert additional pressure on Nigerian foreign exchange reserve, particularly given the existing challenges with foreign currency availability and the depreciation of Naira. So these are the things we have to start, deal with.
Now, Inge, I'm going to come to you very shortly, but Dr. Ngwu, you mentioned something very critical. Middlemen being what one might call, or what some might call, a stumbling block or an impediment, if you like, and then by themselves, making lives difficult for the average Nigerian. Talking about increasing prices and other exploitative activities, as you were. We're going to get to that in the coming minutes very shortly. But I'm going to also dwell a little bit on this particular survey by the CBN. Now, they assessed consumer perspective across three very key dimensions. We're talking about economic conditions, family financial situations, and family income, amongst a few others. We're going to unpack those three, factors. We start with economic situation, as you were. Now, a few policies or a few intervention measures, has been undertaken by the federal government have seen the aftermath being less than friendly or not totally palatable. For instance, the current FX regime, I mean, it was enacted to stop, things like quote unquote rent-seeking behavior and, essentially open up the economy and attract FDIs, as it were, and overall and stabilize the economy overall. And then, of course, you have things like the removal of subsidy, which was also well intended. But what we're seeing is a converse, if you like, of what was intended of what it was intended to achieve. So, in your view, Dr. Ngwu, would you say that the federal government had gotten it right from the jump? And otherwise, is it salvageable at this point in time? Your view?
Oh, yes, it is definitely salvageable. But in order to do that, the government will need to adopt a balanced approach that combines the short-term measures to address inflation with longer-term strategies to strengthen domestic agricultural productivity and food security. This could involve, increasing support for local farmers through subsidies, access to credit, and investment in agricultural infrastructure, while addressing other systemic challenges such as insecurity and supply chain inefficiencies. Now, let's talk about insecurity and supply chain inefficiencies. I believe the government is already tending towards a somewhat significant solution to the issue of insecurity. The government is getting set to launch series of satellites in Nigeria that will take care of aperture radar satellite, as well as the optical satellites. These satellites will help in a long way to combat insecurities in Nigeria. It will go a long way because right now we need an eye on the sky. With eye on the sky, it will give comfort to farmers. It will give confidence for people to go to the farms knowing that there's an eye on the sky. And that will also significantly reduce insecurities from kidnapping of farmers and what have you. So government is doing well in that aspect. When it now come down to supply chain inefficiencies, you're talking about the price of fuel and the price of gas to move things around. Now, food is growing in certain part of Nigeria, and the reason for the high cost of food price, about 70% or more of it is attributed to transportation, which is what we're talking about supply chain inefficiencies. The government is making a lot of effort to start conversion of trucks, big lorries into CNG. Now we have abundance of gas in Nigeria. So we have so much abundance of gas in Nigeria. If we start utilizing the CNG, a safer CNG regime, it will go a long way to hit at this, because what you're gonna see is a situation where, okay, let me give you an example. A Toyota Camry. There was an experiment conducted by the Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology by FIRO, which is one of his agencies. A Toyota Camry was sent to Ibadan from Abuja. The normal fuel cost about 40 to 50,000 naira to get to the destination. But using the CNG converted Camry, it was less than $15. The difference is significant. So if the government I can see they're already having conversation with Innocent Motors for buses. Now, if that translates into trucks carrying things around, there's no excuse anymore to, you can imagine looking at the cost of production or cost of distribution that is about 60, 70%. If you cut it down to about 20, 30%, it will have a long-term effect on these prices. The farmers are not the ones enjoying this high cost of food. It's the middlemen, it's the transporters and what have you. So these are the things the government can do, and they already started doing, that will really help in addressing some of these issues.
Now, I'm going to come back to you, Dr. Ngwu. Let's talk pricing right now. It's a symmetrical issue, as you were. Despite the fact that Nigerians are already hard done by the economic conditions, the harsh economic conditions, we still have, cases of profiteering across the board, especially in retail, unchecked price hikes and, basically price gouging. That's the terminology for it, price gouging.
Yes.
Now, this is a very serious issue. And to respond to this, the FCCPC, that's the Federal Competition and Consumer Consumer Protection Commission, beg your pardon, has issued a moratorium to, businesses or people, as it were, who have been engaging in these exploitative price fixing per se, or pricing, as he were, telling them to desist from such in the next 30 days. That's between now and the end of September, or face whatever consequences that there are. I'm looking at it broad strokes. What do you think about it? Now, take into consideration the fact that businesses are simply trying to get by. They're also a victim of the current conditions, as he were. And so when Mr. Tom or Mr. Harry, as he were, is simply trying to, keep the lights on in his business because of running costs and paying his staff and all of that, and then some lady who is a local trader is trying to make sure that her store doesn't get taken from her because of the high cost of, everything and, that she has to pay to keep the store running. Put that all in perspective and what the FCCPC want to do with this particular moratorium.
Well, issuing commands and dictates and order will not do it. We must create deterrences to stop the price gouging. And you're absolutely right. The problem with this inflation is the middleman. Middlemen come up with all kinds of excuses to increase their price. Now, the beneficiary, I wish that the beneficiaries of this price hike are the farmers. At least, if it is the farmers, they will trickle down to them increasing their farm inputs, and then having bounty harvest and what have you. But what you have here is middlemen who have found a way to build warehouses to store these products, create artificial scarcity in order to increase the price, and then start releasing it, slowly to other middlemen. By the time it comes to the final consumer, you're going to have to go through different kinds of middlemen. The solution is what Mr. President said during his inauguration. He said he's going to bring back commodity board across the country. If you have commodity board in every local government in Nigeria and make it functional, make it effective, get the non-governmental people to be part of the governance of the commodity board. If you do that, you're going to arrest this situation, because commodity board are now going to be tasked with buying these products from the farmers, directly from the farmers, and having a control price. We're supposed to be running a free market economy. The invisible hand is dead in Nigeria. It does not function. If you go to any market in Nigeria, say Wuse Market or Balogun Market, for instance, you have all these unions. You're going to have more than 300 different unions operating in each market. You're going to have people selling vegetable union. You're going to have meat butchers union. You're going to have people selling corn union. grains union. You're going to have provision, you name it, any aspect of the market or any branch of the market you come to, you're going to have a union. And what do they do every morning? Every morning they come together, they set price. So people are not selling according to their individual experiences anymore, which is the essence of the invisible hand. People are selling according to what the union say the price should be, and they penalize traders who sell below the set standard on each day. So this is what you have going on in every market in Nigeria. So government must find a way to discourage this type of price gouging. That's one. The other aspect is the experiences on the road. Is it the customs? Is it the police? Is it the commodity enforcers, local government enforcers? If you drive, especially if you're driving from, say, southeast to south, or from southeast to the north, you're going to run into all kinds of checkpoints. And each checkpoint, these people are meant to dish out money in terms of illegal collection, in terms of illegal fees, sometimes semi-legal fees. A trader will never sell to lose. They won't sell at a loss. A trader must profit from his business. So he accumulates all these illegal charges he collects along the way and set his final price. So the same policeman will go to the market and complain that the price of things are high, but he is a contributor to these things. So we have to create the awareness for people to understand the implication of individual efforts in terms of how it affects the general effort of the people. So these are the issues. Now you look at remittances, diaspora remittances. In 2023, $20 billion was remitted to Nigeria from Nigerians living in diaspora. $20 billion. That's a lot of money. All this money are funding, they're all funding consumers. None of them are going into very, very few percentage of it are going into investment. And when you talk about people borrowing, like you previously said, this borrowing is not coming from the banks. Most Nigerians have given up from borrowing from the banks. It's not even affordable borrowing from banks anymore. And the banks are not making life easier for consumers. And the banks are also a function of all these charges they do. Banks are making their money. Banks are making record profits, not from borrowing activities, but from all kinds of charges. So government still, CBNC has to step into these charges by banks, find a way to control it. Now, which brings me back to what I said about remittances. This borrowing, a function of this money coming from the diaspora remittances. $20 billion is a lot of money to spend on consuming, on the consumption level, not on production level. It would have been nice if this kind of money is coming in and is invested. It would create all kinds of economic activities for the country. So, yes, you're absolutely right that the middlemen are the problem in Nigeria, middlemen and women. And you see it every market you go to. If you're trying to buy vegetables or fruits, which is where government can also come in by investing in processing, because these farmers sell out of fear. They don't want to lose their, especially those dealing in perishable goods. They are the worst hit in this kind of situation because they want to sell. They don't want to lose. Since you know that about 60% of sometimes 40 to 60% of the consumable goods in Nigeria perish from the farmers. So the farmers are forced to sell at low price to the middlemen who will not go and sell at a high price. So these are the things government can do: invest in processing, invest in post-harvest losses mechanism, either through solar dryers and what have you. These are the things government can do to alleviate this. And most importantly, commodity boards in every local government in Nigeria, it will go a long way.
Thank you very much, Doc. But just on a final note, let's round up with your thoughts, Dr. Ngwu. Ingi has said quite a lot, which essentially more or less corroborates a few things that you said much earlier. But let's, round it up at this juncture right now. Now, clearly, it's evident, clear as day, that Nigerians should and must brace up for what would look like a grimmer, if you like, couple of months, or if you like, the coming year per se. Now, let's talk recovery very, very quickly, Doctor, because we have indeed run out of time. But I want to, give you the right of final words, as you were. Recovery. Are we anywhere closer to it? And if we are, what is recovery going to look like in practical terms, sustainably over the long haul?
Well, I'm going to bring in something that we've not talked about, but it plays it may potentially play an important role. The federal government is fighting so hard to achieve an independence for local government administration. Every month, the 44 local governments in Nigeria, they receive the allocation directly from the federal government through the state. The implication is that since it's going through the state, that oftentimes the state governors basically hijack the money. It doesn't go to the local government administration. So now with the recent moves by the federal government, making sure that each local government chairman is getting their money directly from the federal government, I believe this will go a long way in helping local economy, because the local government is supposed to be directly linked to the people. Right now, the local government administration is dead. But with the money, if there's an effective monitoring of that money into this local government, it's going to go a long way into injecting needed liquidity into the local government, into communities and villages. The trickle-down effect is going to be amazing. Then they can begin to come up with ideas on how to utilize the money in helping the farmers, and even embarking on farming production and what have you. But at the end of the day, while the decision to scrap import duties on food items may offer immediate relief from rising inflation, it presents significant risks to the agricultural sector, physical stability,
all right,
and long-term
Thank you very much, Dr. Ngwu, for your thoughts. It's been really, really, really insightful hearing from you this morning. And Ingi as well, thank you for talking to us. We've been talking with Dr. Robert Ogbonna Ngwu. He is an economic, finance and management expert, and also the Special Advisor to the Honorable Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology. Dr. Ngwu, many thanks for joining us on the program today. Unfortunately, we couldn't take some more of your thoughts because of time. Do apologize in that regard. And also Ms. Singi Rimaga, Public Affairs Analyst or Public Policy Analyst. Also because of time, we couldn't take some more of your thoughts, but we thank you very much for joining us on the program this morning. That's Market Insights today, Friday, August 30. But before we go, quick look at the currency market. That's it on today's edition of Market Insight. Many thanks for joining us. And again, special thanks to our guest also for joining us. Do stay tuned to SOUQ News Television for more engaging and insightful programming. And also do follow us on our social media platforms scrolling right there on your screen. I am David Chiedu. Until next week, Market Insight returns. Have a wonderful weekend.